Let's make some noise. Come on.
Yes, indeed. Let's make some noise indeed. Thank you, Mr. Nick Foles, as always, for that rousing introduction. And yes, folks, welcome back to the Final Word with MattyB here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network for our broadcast week debut, coming at you on this Memorial Day. Hope everybody's doing well. I lost my audio there. Hope everyone's doing well. Hope you guys enjoyed your long weekend. And I hope that things find you well. So we're back here, though, and we're going to try to do what we can do to get the week started off right. Because that's what we do on this program. This is your final word. This is your last stop in your Philadelphia sports day. And I have the great honor of being the purveyor of that final word. And tonight, we got a bunch, as we do every night. Your day in Philadelphia sports history. As the show title indicates, we're going to get back to some reality talk tonight. That's right, because we are in the... Listen, Philadelphia and being a sports fan in this town is amazing. It's amazing on all kinds of different levels. And tonight, I have the distinct opportunity of setting the record straight. Because once again, I find myself in a position to have to defend just about everything I say. But that's okay, because this is the final word. And MattyB always gets that final word. But we're gonna talk about some sports reality versus sports expectations in this town, without being too, I guess, controversial or too aggressive. I'm going to call this sports reality versus sports expectation. We're going to do our of the night segment. We're also going to do our we got our top 10 worst Phillies trades of all times, according to me. We're down to number 4 on our list as we're getting right to the end. We're going to knock that out. We're going to do the card review, talk some Phillies. The Phillies are not playing tonight, by the way. Taking a rare Memorial Day off as the Phillies get the holiday. And we'll continue the conversation with the Phillies. They coming home after a 9-game winning streak. So all those great and wonderful things that we do here on the program. And before I get started, let me remind everybody out there that this show is brought to you by the great folks at the It's a Wrap Sports Network that provide such entertainment as the PNM and the AM program every Sunday morning at 9. Join Pat, Mike, and Al Zafiri for their brand of Philadelphia sports talk. And, coincidentally, this is pretty much where the title of my show is coming from, was the immense amount of lies and propaganda that was spread on the Sunday morning edition of the PNM and the AM program that I had now the opportunity to set the record straight. But make sure you're checking out PNM and the AM every Sunday at 9. Also, the Attacking Third, your only union destination. If you want to talk MLS or soccer, then join the Attacking Third every Thursday night at 9. All right. So are you ready? Are you ready to get it going here tonight? Let's strap it in, strap it on, strap it up. Keep your heads, hand, and feet inside the car at all times. And let's roll. Joe Hale, how are you tonight? And what's going on? I hope everything is well with you tonight. Let's get it started with your day in Philadelphia sports history. We're going to go right back to the beautiful year of 2003. On this day in 2003, Larry Brown resigned as the head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers. A week later, he then signed with the Detroit Pistons, led the Pistons in 2004 to NBA glory. His only ever NBA championship season was with the Pistons. Left the Pistons, bounced around a little bit, went to the Knicks, the Bobcats. Then he joined the ranks of the NCAA with SMU. He went to a couple of different places as well, and then stepped down from coaching, I think, permanently back in 2022, citing health reasons. But Larry Brown, maybe the last decent head coach we ever had here. And on this night back in 2003, he resigned as your head coach of the Philadelphia 76ers, taking with him any hope of a championship that the Sixers might ever have. And that seems to be the statement as we roll into the 25-26 season. So happy Larry Brown resigns day here in Philadelphia as we celebrate that on this Memorial Day. Back in 2003, Larry Brown resigned. Ricky Deal. Okay. So yeah, there you go. All right. So let's get it going, man. I can't wait anymore. I've held my tongue for almost 2 days, and now it's time for me to let loose. On Sunday, on this fine network, on the fine program, the PNM and the AM program, I was once again under attack for my takes on the Philadelphia Eagles, and specifically on Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni. Now I got to go back and set the record straight for the bazillionth time, because what homers do, and this is really the truth. This is not me trying to puff them up or trying to aggravate them, but homers get so defensive when you try to take away their lollipops. So defensive when they try to take away their lollipops. They want to fight you to the death over statements that they're not really understanding what I'm trying to say. And that's been pretty much the story of my life. And I get that. So once again, here I am on taking time out of your night and my night to have to sit back and kind of defend myself over a couple different points that were brought up by me, and then propagandized by the folks over there at the PNM and the AM program. So here we go. Let's get it started. And I want to start because I really want to put this to bed. I really want to put this to bed so I can move on about my life. You can move on about yours, and maybe we can be somewhat friends, somewhat enemies, whatever. But I do want to put this to bed because I'm getting tired of talking about it. I recognize 100% the Eagles that are the undisputed Super Bowl champions. I've never once said that they weren't. I don't think there's an asterisk next to their season. I think they went about their business very professionally and very dominantly last season. But what I'm going to try to sort of relay to you is what the reality of what they did last season was versus the expectation and the propaganda that the homers are trying to sell you. Here we go. Reality point number one. The season wasn't starting off so perfect. 2-2 through the first 4 games. And an opportunity, a come to Jesus moment, a come to God moment, a let's tear it down, let's go back to the drawing board kind of moment occurred after the Eagle Buccaneer game in week 4. That they were thoroughly swacked in. That come to Jesus moment was the realization that the quarterback is not an elite level NFL quarterback. Now, I am not saying he's not an NFL level quarterback. I'm not. He's a very capable quarterback. He's a very good quarterback, but he is not elite. You would not restructure your offense because you're not having the success that you're thinking you're going to have. Now, whether or not it was misguided coming out of the season to go pass heavy, whether or not that was a misguided way to go because he had Saquon Barkley kind of revving up in the driveway, whether or not that was a misguided way to go, they still went that way, and it failed. It absolutely 100% failed because of the quarterback's inability to read defenses, to go through his checkdowns and not turn the football over. What was it? 25 turnovers in the last 31 games, dating back into like seasons for Jalen Hurts heading into the bye week in week 4. So they stripped it all down and decided to go pass heavy. They watered down the offense for their elite quarterback so that he could run the offense effectively. And it worked. It worked the gangbusters, and it was amazing to see it all happen. But to sit here and try to puff up and try to sell anybody on Jalen Hurts' elite level play last year, you must have been watching a different season than I was. Jalen Hurts, again, and I got to preface, I don't hate Jalen Hurts, nor do I want him out of here. He's a very good quarterback. Isn't that okay? Isn't that enough to have? He's a Super Bowl champion, right? Even though, let's face it, and I'm going to get to my points later on about whether or not he was the main factor that won them the Super Bowl, or that they could have won the Super Bowl without his contributions. We're going to get to that here in a second. But he's a Super Bowl champion. It's okay not to have an elite quarterback who's a Super Bowl champion. They've been known to exist. And Jalen Hurts is one of them. He's a fine top 10, 11 quarterback in this league. Because I asked the homers this question too, and they never answer it with a straight face. They never give me a straight answer when I ask this question of them. I tell them, or I ask them, I say, if you have an opportunity to strip down the Eagles and then redraft the team based on the existing NFL quarterbacks that are in the league right now, and you have the number 1 overall pick in this fantasy redraft, who are you taking? They give me the side eye or that's not realistic. No one's going to tell me. Even this most strictest homer is going to tell me that they would redraft Jalen Hurts first. They wouldn't. They wouldn't because he's not elite. But again, it's okay. There's far worse situations that the Eagles could be in than having Jalen Hurts here. But the bottom line was they went back to the drawing board on their offense and to feature Saquon Barkley, who they probably should have been featuring from the very beginning. I agree with that point. But they stripped the offense down and made it run heavy because the pass heavy wasn't working. And it was not working because of the quarterback. And it's okay to admit to that. It's absolutely okay. The homers want to sell you on something else. And what is the homer default answer to this is, why would they not use Saquon Barkley? Because they had him. That's not what I'm saying. They watched the same 4 games to start the season that I did. They experienced the same 4 games that I did. They saw the Eagles trying to force feed Jalen Hurts down your throats, trying to make him the center focal point of the offense, and they saw him fail. So they went ahead and they restructured the offense in order to tailor it around his ability, which is not elite. When was the last time Tom Brady had the offense structured around his lack of ability? Peyton Manning, Joe Montana, Brett Favre. We can go down the list. And it's okay. It's okay. Jalen Hurts is a competent quarterback. He's not elite. And not one of you homers can look me in the eye and tell me that if you had the opportunity to redraft the Philadelphia Eagles with all the current quarterbacks in the NFL right now, that you would not select a different quarterback. None of you have the courage to tell me that you would, even though you would. And then you all give me some bullcrap, sidestepped answer that, well, that's not liable, or that's not a viable type of thing. Larry Brown, without the question, was the last best coach of the Sixers. He was Michael Kaepernick, and tonight, unfortunately, back in 2003, Larry Brown resigned. Then went off to the Pistons and won a championship. How you doing, Ricky? What's going on, man? The Eagles are the first 18-win team to win the Super Bowl since the 1985 Bears. Oh, come on, Mike. Jesus Christ. I mean, there's more games this season. Listen, I'm not, again, I gotta, Michael, I don't look at you as a homer, man. I don't. Maybe you have a different viewpoint of the Eagles because we really haven't had deep conversations about the Eagles. But here's the thing. I'm going to preference this. I am not saying the Eagles did not deserve to win the Super Bowl. I am not saying that. Not at all. It was an amazing ride. They earned it. They did what they had to do in the most dominating ways possible. Okay? Please understand that I'm not downplaying the Super Bowl. And I'm not downplaying what was achieved last year. It was completely amazing. But in a lot of ways, it came out of nowhere because they restructured the offense. And we'll get to this second point right now. Nobody gives the Eagle defense any type of credit that it needs to be given. Everybody looks past what that defense did from week 9 essentially to the Super Bowl. From week 9 to the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles defense was on a different level. They went from having, I think, 10 forced turnovers to like 31 down the stretch of the season. They did things that literally set the team up to win. They were a number, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, the emergence of that defense and the players upon that defense were the number one reason why the team won the Super Bowl. And for you to sit here on the biggest of stages of the Super Bowl and actually look at yourself in the mirror and think that Jalen Hurts deserved the MVP and not the Philadelphia Eagle defense, you got a problem. You got a problem about what you're seeing. You're not looking at things with your eyes. You're looking at them with your heart. Jalen Hurts was a benefactor, and the rest of the Eagle offense were benefactors of that amazing defensive performance that the Eagles defense was on throughout the back half of the season, and then obviously peaked there at the Super Bowl. So to sit here and tell me, or tell yourself, or tell the other, try to indoctrinate others into your warped way of thinking that Jalen Hurts deserved to win that MVP in the Super Bowl is ridiculous. It's just straight up ridiculous. He did it. The Eagle defense, Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean, you could pick about 4 of them that should have won that trophy, but they're never going to give it to a defensive player. What was the last time? Larry Brown, the kid from the Cowboys back in like 96? No, it wasn't. It was the dude it was Von Miller, right? From the Broncos? It's been a minute, and they don't do it. But to sit here and look at yourself in the face and try to talk yourself into that Jalen Hurts was the MVP of the Super Bowl? Come on, man. I'm trying to have rational conversations with people when they allow me. So the defense, number one contribution to winning a Super Bowl last year. And that's why with all the turnover on that defense, it's got me concerned heading into the season. Because if the defense does not play at the level that they played last year, if they can't stay there or go higher, and if they come down just one step, I don't think this is a Super Bowl team. I don't think it is. Because I don't have faith and confidence in the quarterback to pick the team up on his feet, on his shoulders, and carry them to victory. Because has he ever done that? Has he ever done that in his time here in this town? What was the last game? I know the last game that I remember that he sort of kind of did that, and it was 2 years ago against the Buffalo Bills. He willed them the victory. It was Jalen Hurts' show at the end of that game and into overtime. But that's the only time in his time that he's been the quarterback of this team that I've seen him do that. And it's going to take more than just one game sprinkled in 2.5 seasons ago for him to carry this team, if that's what they have to do, because the defense is not up to the task. I don't hear the defense getting any credit. Everyone gives defense an aside credit. Oh, yeah, the defense, they were good too. No, the defense should be the focal point of all the credit. And I'm not going to say flowers because I'll never give men flowers, but all the credit and all the accolades needed to be given to the defense for what they accomplished in 2024. Because without that and without them, this team does not win a Super Bowl, hands down. It does not win it. It does not win a Super Bowl without the play of defense. Not without the play of Jalen Hurts. They still win a Super Bowl if you had a different quarterback in there. And that's just the reality of it. Because that's what happens when you put a above average game manager as your quarterback. You rely on the other aspects of your team. And it's pretty interchangeable as well. Now, the second biggest contribution to them winning a Super Bowl was Saquon friggin' Barkley. How can you downplay 2,500 yards in a season? How can you not give that its proper respect? Like it's supposed to happen. That never happens. And Saquon Barkley, with the pass or the rush heavy defense, took full advantage of it and ran his way into the record books, or kind of did, and had himself an amazing season. So defense, Saquon, Jalen is how this team won the Super Bowl. And I got to constantly defend that. I got to constantly sit here and tell you that I don't hate Jalen Hurts. I don't. Things could be a lot worse without a quarterback, without Jalen Hurts, right? They could be better, but they could be worse. He's an above average game manager, and that's all he's ever going to be. And that's fine because he's won a Super Bowl. And he's in a position this coming season to win another one if he's got a good team around him. So I find it extremely interesting that the homers go off the res as soon as you attack Jalen Hurts. As soon as you go after Jalen Hurts and you try to talk down just a little bit and try to say he's not what you think he is, they go off the res, man. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Jalen Hurts can be elite at times and struggle at times. Joe, maybe this is the problem. What's your definition of elite? Maybe that's where I need to go with. All Jalen has done is win. He has been to two Super Bowls and won one. Not Joe Burrow, not Josh Allen, not Lamar, not Goff. Okay, so the Philadelphia Jalen Hurtses have gone to two Super Bowls. Or is it the Philadelphia Eagles that Jalen Hurts is the quarterback of? So you're telling me, Michael Kaepernick, that Jalen Hurts is the lone contributor to all the success that this team has. Did you watch the defense at all last year? Did you watch Saquon Barkley at all last year? Are you going to sit there and tell me that this team is in a position to win a Super Bowl based primarily on Jalen Hurts' play and say an average defensive performance and an average running attack? Are you honestly going to sit here and tell me that? I mean, Michael Kaepernick, come on, man. Dude, let's let the sunshine in, man. So you're going to tell me that if you took away the contributions of that defense, maybe you don't remember the contributions because some time has passed, and I understand that. But the team went into week 9 with 9 forced turnovers. They left the Super Bowl with 31 forced turnovers, all right? It was one of the most dominating defensive performances I've seen over a stretch of games in my life, rivaling that of the 2000 Ravens, rivaling that of the 85 Bears. It was that dominant. And then do I really got to paint the picture of how invaluable Saquon Barkley was? Jalen Hurts had little to nothing to do with their championship. He played his part. He was nothing but a game manager and nothing but the quarterback. And I'll give you that. And don't throw me out. I'm not talking about Joe Burrow doesn't have a team like the Eagles. Josh Allen didn't have a team like the Eagles. And Goff did not have a team like the Eagles. All right. Dak has never had a team like that. So don't give me that. Now, I see you don't throw out Tom Brady or Joe Montana at me. You're going to go with the kind of the current stuff, right? But why do we downplay the rest of the team? The other 52 members. I don't get it, man. I don't get where people think he was so goddamn valuable. I really don't. I'm telling you, and we can't do this, obviously. I don't want to see it. But if you could go back, and I hope to God this season is not that exercise and that experiment where the defense is not quite where they were last year, and Saquon is not quite where he was last year, and you're going to see the quarterback have to win games week to week. Is Jalen Hurts capable of that? Because he's never shown it before. What happened in 2023? What happened there? How do they finish the season up the way they did? I was the only one who sat back, even through 10-1, and said, this is not real. This is going to fall apart. They're winning on fluke plays. They're winning on like craziness. Eventually, all that luck's going to run out, and it did. What happened to Jalen Hurts in 2023? Huh? What happened? Aside from 2022, he has been an above-average quarterback his entire career. It's okay to admit that, everybody. It is, because he did win. I take Burrow over Jalen. I would too. I take Josh Allen over Jalen too. The Bucs restricted their offense like 6 to 8 games the year that Tom Brady won the Super Bowl because the offense wasn't working. So you're telling me in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, Tom Brady wasn't the overall factor that helped the Chiefs win or Tampa win that game? Come on, man. I'll take the Eagles defense or any other defense. Right. But Joe, currently you will. Don't forget, the Eagle defense got pilfered in free agency. That's a big unknown heading into the season. And we're not talking about that either. No one's sitting down. Everyone's focused on Jalen. Everyone's focused on Saquon. Everyone's focused on the offense. Not much attention, once again, is being paid to the defense. 6 main contributors of that defense are no longer here. And is it foolhardy to expect a bunch of Class B free agents, a bunch of draft picks in 2025, a bunch of former draft picks to step in and fill the role of some of those contributors? Is that a foolish thing to think of? It's not. It could happen. But is there any concern? Because I'm telling you, if the defense does not maintain the level that they were at in 2024, this team will not win a Super Bowl. I'm telling you, they will not. And I have concerns. And a lot of Eagle fans should. So the Chiefs shutting down Barkley didn't put the game on Jalen. No, absolutely not. The Eagle defense flipping the field put the game in the offense's hands. Did Jalen make some plays in the Super Bowl? 100%, but so did Cooper DeJean. I don't see anybody talking about him. So did Zach Bond. What about the side of the ball that tormented Pat Mahomes the whole game? Don't forget, we're talking about Pat Mahomes here, right? The defense completely shut him down for the entire game and flipped the field consistently against the Chiefs. The law of averages was going to say that the Eagles were going to break through at some point. So again, Mike, I think maybe you can go back and rewatch Super Bowl 59. And if we take away the defensive contributions, and yes, okay, maybe Saquon still gets shut down. Unfortunately, we're not going to see what the Kansas City Chiefs offense would have done to the defense if you take away what they did. So again, I'm just saying, you're so quick, and a lot of Jalen Hurts apostles are so quick to run to his defense. They forget about what the game's set up to be. It wasn't Jalen Hurts grabbing the ball at the 20-yard line, driving down the length of the field every possession. No, he was getting the ball on the 35. The Cooper DeJean pick 6. He's getting the ball back down on the 20-yard line. On what was it, 4 turnovers in that game? Come on, man. Come on. The defense played at an all-time high. They did. Also, like for that, like week 9 to the end. Damn, that was a nice run by Smith in the Super Bowl. Okay. So again, are you trying to be facetious with me? I mean, I'm just saying. You're telling me again, the Jalen Hurts apostles. You're telling me that without Jalen Hurts or without the defense contributions and without Saquon's, the Eagles are in a position to win a Super Bowl. And then they win a Super Bowl. And if you can honestly look at me and say that, you're lying to yourself. And you know you are. But you're afraid to admit to that because you're afraid to get kicked off the island. That's fine. That's why I am here. I'm here to be your therapist. This is a safe space. The Homer Gestapo can't touch you here. You can be free to speak your mind. Not what they want you to say, but what you can say. It's a team sport, not can I sport. Yeah, it is. So again, Michael, and I agree with that. So, but my whole philosophy around the Super Bowl winning season was the contributions of the defense and Saquon Barkley. I think the top 3 contributions were defense, Saquon, Jalen Hurts. Now, if you look at it objectively and not through Homer glasses, and you took away the defense's contribution to an average defense, well, I don't really know average. Do they win the Super Bowl with Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts' contributions alone? Do they? Okay. Now, you take away Saquon Barkley's contributions. Do they win the Super Bowl on Jalen Hurts and the defense's contributions alone? And finally, if you take away Jalen Hurts' contributions, do they win the Super Bowl based on Saquon Barkley and the defense? I think if you think about it really deep and hard, you know what the right answer is. And it's okay to admit to that. Again, I am not a Jalen Hurts hater. He's a competent game manager, above average quarterback. And he's a Super Bowl champion. But he's not elite. Just like his running dog, Nick Sirianni, is not elite. First question I ask people about Nick Sirianni is explain his coaching style. And you know what I get? You know what I get? I get cheerleader. He's the motivational speaker. He's the guy that keeps a gauge on the team's personality and their emotions and their feelings. No one talks X's and O's to me. I don't hear nothing about his style. Okay? I don't hear nothing about that. Nick Sirianni is the luckiest man in America. He came along for this ride, and it really worked out well for him. And I give him a lot of credit. But if you're going to tell me that the Eagles could move on without Nick Sirianni and still maintain the Super Bowl-like type of winning attitude, we really need to have an intervention because, again, I don't like Nick Sirianni. I think he brings the wrong culture here. Yeah, I really do. I don't know what I don't know what he is. no one can answer that question anymore. And I brought this up on the PM and the AM program. How much of the Super Bowl was really on Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio? Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out how much was on the offense, because you're not going to have Kellen Moore anymore. And we're going back to a new coordinator. Didn't we just go down this road of a brand new, like, first time offensive coordinator like 2 seasons ago, and it didn't work? You guys ran Brian Johnson and Sean Desai out of here with pitchforks and torches. But now here we are, less than 2 years later, and you're opening the doors for another brand newbie in Kevin Padula, whatever the hell ever say his name. No one's talking about the unknown with that. And how much on the offensive side of things was scrapping the aerial attack and going to a run-heavy type package on Kellen Moore, right? And now we're going to throw things in the hands of this first-time offensive coordinator, or maybe we're not. Maybe Nick Sirianni is going to take a hand more into calling plays again. Now, that didn't work out too well before when he first came here. What makes you think it's going to work out this time? These are a lot of unknown factors that nobody wants to talk about. I know you're thinking about them, but nobody wants to talk about them because it's anti-Eagle to do. These are the factors that are going to prevent this team from winning a Super Bowl or being a dynasty. They really are, but no one wants to talk about it. They want to throw up things like, that was a great run that Smith had. Okay, well, what's the plan going forward? What's your concerns over the offense with a new play caller? What's your concerns on the defense with losing 6 main contributors off the starting defense? What's your concerns there? There's none? It's like all sunny in Philadelphia? Oh, we're going to go right back out and roll the dice and win 15 games and steamroll our way to another Super Bowl? I don't think that's going to happen. They got a shot, but a lot of things got to work out. Vic Fangio's a genius. Another year, Jalen Carter will help the defense big. It will, but is it going to replace, again, Joe Hale? I'm being devil's advocate here, man. I'm just telling you, again, things that Eagle fans, homers, are afraid to talk about in their little homer circles because they're going to get kicked out. How much of a concern is it for you that Vic Fangio lost 6 main contributors off his defense? And how much also is a concern is that at the Zach Bonds of the world, was it Zach Bond and his skill level that kind of came out of nowhere? Or was it the players that Zach Bond was around up front? And without some of those players in the mix now, is Zach Bond going to suffer? Because now, and I mentioned this in another show, Zach Bond, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, they're not coming out of the shadows anymore. They're not going to be the X factor on this defense anymore. No, they're going to be schemed directly against. These are the players that offensive coordinators are going to scheme against directly. Are they ready for that? And again, I'm asking. I'm not saying that they're not, but are they ready for that? Zach Bond has been nothing before last year. They gave him the bag. Now they're going to pay him like a number one. Now he's going to have to be a leader out there and also be a focal point of that defense. Can Zach Bond handle that? Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, second-year players. Now, if they step back this year and they struggle, I'm going to hear the excuse mongering going on about the sophomore drinks. They'll be fine, whatever. But are they ready to step into more of a focal point of the offense when it comes to being schemed against? I know Quinyon routinely drew a lot of the number ones last year. I get that. But now, Quinyon doesn't have any help. He's out there on an island a little bit. How much of Quinyon's success came from Cooper DeJean, came from Darius Slay and CJ, PJ, KJ, DJ? How much of that came from them? And now that they're gone, is Keely Ringo, what was the other one? Sidney Brown. Are those guys going to actually be able to step into that role? Dory Jackson, are they going to be able to step into those roles? These are concerns that nobody's talking about because it's either not copacetic to talk about them, or we're still riding on this Super Bowl high. But eventually someone's going to talk about it, because I think eventually we're all going to be talking about it when the team comes out the block struggling a little bit. But I agree with you. Jalen Carter is another world of a player. Vic Fangio was a great defensive coordinator another year. Oh, yeah, I just had that one. Do the Eagles with Saquon and Tanner McKee quarterbacking and the defense playing at the extreme? I would say so. Why not? Why not? You give Tanner McKee the entire season to figure out his role as a starting quarterback. Could the Eagles with a mercenary defense and a patchwork offense have Nick Foles win them a Super Bowl? Michael Kaepernick? Could they do that? Nick Foles did it. Why couldn't Tanner McKee do it? Nick Foles. Why would it have to be Tanner? It would be actually Kenny Pickett. But if Nick Foles could do it, why couldn't Kenny Pickett do it? Saying, man. Doug Williams did it. What? Who else? What else backups in history have done it? I mean, come on. Ryan, how are you tonight? I'm not concerned with the Eagles losing defensive free agents. I think the Eagles will be a top 10. Why aren't you concerned? So, Joe Hale, who are the replacements for the players we lost? Who is Darius Slay's replacement? Who is it? Adoree Jackson? Who is it? I'm asking because I don't know. Who is CJ DJ's replacement? Who's Milton Williams' replacement? Who's Isaiah Ray? Rodgers is out, so who's going to be his depth spot? The Kobe Dean is probably not going to play. I don't even know if he's going to play at all this season. Right? Jihad Campbell comes in with a banged up shoulder. He's not going to start the season. What's your defensive rotation at linebacker to start the season? Zach Bond and Jeremiah Trotter Jr.? Is that something you're okay with? Two of them? Why aren't you not concerned, Joe Hale? Who are these replacement players? Who is stepping into the breach to pick up the slack for the departed? A little Memorial Day thing. I'm damn straight I'm concerned about it. The defense got pilfered in free agency. And did they do enough to replenish it? We'll see. Hey, Pat, what's up? We might have to invite MattyB to hop on PM in the AM show. It's like Disney World. It's the happiest place on earth. Listen, Pat, you're right to lockstep along with them two bozos on Sunday. All right, sipping the damn Kool-Aid, man. All right. I mean, I'm just saying, you guys want to. It's okay to think Jalen Hurts is not elite. It's okay. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's a winner. He's a quitter too, but he's a winner. And he wins a lot of football games. I'll give you that. And as I said, there's 1,000 things worse off than having Jalen Hurts as your starting quarterback. But he is no way elite. Eagles defense was great this year because it didn't rely heavily on just the front four and pass rush. They had incredible pass coverage, pass defense. The rush was good enough, but it still wasn't. And that's a good point, Ryan. The front four up front it took them a minute to kind of figure out their thing. It was what was happening in that second level. It was what was happening at linebacker, what was happening in the defensive backfield. And that is where we lost most of our toys in those two areas. Now the front four, again, on their own really didn't generate much. Jalen Carter did come up big in those moments of those games, but he wasn't a menace all game long. He would pick and choose his moments and come up huge. What was happening on the edge was Josh Sweat was and of course Huff was So you're right. The Eagles predicated themselves on a good second level defense. And can they do that in 2025 with all the lost pieces? These are interesting questions, man, that nobody's asking. So I'm going to leave it at this. You guys can have your opinions about the Eagles, and I can have my opinion about the Eagles. And it doesn't mean I'm less of a fan than you. All right. My bottom line. My bottom line's about winning. My bottom line's about Super Bowls, and we got a Super Bowl. And I'm 100% on board with that. But now it's about upping the ante and upping the stakes. Now they're going to go out and try to win another one because we are still living in the Kansas City Chief dynasty. You know that, right? Everybody? Is everybody aware of that? We are still living in their dynasty. Now, if the Eagles can go out there and win next year, that will be changed. But it's still the Kansas City Chief dynasty until somebody else has something else to say about it. Heading into this season, I don't know if the Eagles have done enough to be a dynasty. I don't know if they brought in the right players to be a dynasty. And there's a lot of doubters out there who are not just me. There's a lot of doubters out there that feel the same way, that are inside of Eagles Nation. And things are going to have to, we had the same questions, or I should say, I had the same questions about this team heading into last year. It was all defense. I think we all knew what the offense was, and we know what the offense is. It's all about the defense. Zach Bond, who the hell is Zach Bond? He's the biggest addition at linebacker last year. Oh my God! But they brought back Gardner Johnson. Darius Slay was another year. I thought we took, and I wasn't a Slay guy. I thought he had a great year, but I'm not upset he's not here. But I'm telling you, I think we lost a lot, and I don't know if they're going to be able to replace it this year. Maybe they have the pieces in place for years down the line to eventually work their way into that. But to come out of a Super Bowl defense, a title defense, is this the best version of the Eagles that we can expect to win a Super Bowl? Is this the version that's going to go do it? And are there concerns with that? Eagles in 2022 were front four pass rush, other than nothing. The pass coverage defense got humiliated in the front. Okay, yeah, you're right. The year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl against the 49ers, they played every game on the road and beat the Ravens at home, who were favored with Lamar MVP, and Lamar didn't make it. So I don't know what you're trying to say here. Everybody wants to. What about Pat Mahomes? I mean, come on. So are you trying to tell me that Pat Mahomes is not? Did I ever say Lamar Jackson was an elite level quarterback? I never said that. No, I never said that. I think there's three of them in the league: Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Pat Mahomes. To me, those are the three elite level quarterbacks in this league. Everyone else is just below them. I'm telling you how I feel, man. If Jalen Hurts would get 20 or 230, 240 per game, he would be an elite quarterback. I don't care if he never got more than 240 per game, not saying or asking for 300, just 200, especially with the offense and great receivers. Ryan, I agree, but how can Jalen Hurts do that with this? How can Jalen Hurts achieve those numbers with this stat right here? Jalen Hurts attempted 361 passes in 2024, and only 48 of them were to the middle of the field. Why? Nobody can answer that question for me. You know what answers I've gotten? Actually, they've tried to answer it. I heard the tight end. the tight end. That's what I heard. I heard the tight end is the reason why they couldn't, as to why they weren't throwing the ball to the middle of the field. That's not the answer. But everybody knows the answer, but nobody wants to talk about it. Jalen Hurts did not throw the ball to the middle of the field because the Eagles offense did not let him do it, because they didn't trust him to make those throws. They didn't trust him to put it in that window consistently enough, because he was turning the ball over at an epic clip heading into that week 4 bye against or week 5 bye against the Buccaneers. So everything was YOLO. Everything was down the middle. Everything was up top. He was threading the needle like crazy. But nothing was to the middle of the field. You know who was to the middle of the field? It was Saquon Barkley. That was the middle of the field Eagle offense. What happens if they take that away from the Eagles in 2025? How is this number going to change? 361 passes attempted in 2024 by Jalen Hurts. Only 48 of them were to the middle of the field. That's incredible. Why? They don't trust him. And it's okay. It's okay to admit that he's an above average game managing quarterback. 100%. He's a Super Bowl champion, and he's a winner, along with his buffoon head coach. So I had to set the record straight, and I feel better. I feel vindicated. I feel cleansed. And I invite all matter of fact, what we're going to do here on this show starting tomorrow, not tomorrow. Defense wins Super Bowls and pitching wins World Series. It most certainly does, Michael Kaepernick. Starting on Wednesday, because we're not going to be back tomorrow. I got post game. But starting on Wednesday, we're going to open up the call. We're going to open up the phone lines. That's right. I am going to provide you the link, the StreamYard link to this show. And if you want to, a la WIP or the Fanatic, you can jam in on with me, and I will take your call on air starting on Wednesday's show. We're going to try this. This could be famous last words, but we're going to try this starting on Wednesday. We're going to open up the phone lines or the video lines, whatever, microphone lines, whatever you guys want to call it. I'm going to put the StreamYard link in the chat. And if you want to jump on, and we'll go back and forth, because I'm tired of being the only voice here, right? I want to hear what everybody else thinks. And I want to meet you people too. I'm tired of being the one-sided conversation. Joe Burrow threw for like 500 to 4,500 plus yards last season and was the MVP, and Josh Allen threw for most 3 million yards, so no Super Bowl. Listen, I get you, Michael. I mean, again, and then what did Homer number 1, Mike Laro, say about stacked football teams? You got so offended by that. They had a stacked team. Most definitely had a stacked team. Absolutely. That's what you need to win a Super Bowl. It's not wrong. Again, it's not the Philadelphia Jalen Hurtses. All right. It's the Philadelphia Eagles. They were a complete team last year, 100%. So, yeah, they had a stacked team. Okay, Mike, you might get your wish this year. You might see what the team is looking like when it's not so stacked. Then you might be eating your words a little bit on that one. But, yeah, no, they were a stacked team last year. And I know 100%. Are you going to tell me that Joe Burrow and Josh Allen could not have won a Super Bowl here last year? I mean, I'm telling you, I think Kenny Pickett could have done it. Honestly. I honestly believe that. So you're damn right they had a stacked team. And there's nothing wrong with that, because Howie Roseman did what he was supposed to do and put together a Super Bowl winner. You can't argue that. I mean, but again, we're gonna sit here and try to pump something up that doesn't exist. Jalen Hurts is not elite. He's a good quarterback, but he's not elite. So tomorrow or Wednesday, when we're back on the program, I will open up the phone lines to you. We're going to do this WIP style starting on Wednesday, and you can be on with your camera. You don't have to have your camera on. You have to have your microphone on, but you don't have to have your camera on if you don't want to. But we're going to try this out and see how it works. If someone does come on, can they choose? Well, yeah, I'll ask you what's on your mind. Hey, what do you want to talk about? Absolutely. And now I'm going to throw out topics to talk about. We're going to have a narrative, or I'll have a agenda, but yeah, you can mention and talk about anything you want. Absolutely. 100%, Joe. We have great wide receivers and consistently average 230, 240 yards. Not saying 300, just 230, 240. Again, is that coming from the quarterback? Because it sure as hell ain't coming from the wide receivers. I feel you, Ryan. I just threw out one little stat. Ryan's going to the book here. All right, let's transition a little bit. Phillies are back in town tomorrow night against the Braves. Interesting 3-game set going to start at the bank. Here's your Fighting's final lineup for tomorrow. I will be on post game tomorrow. Pat got it on Wednesday, and Mike Laro will have you on Thursday, as we will get the Braves series, and then they'll welcome in the Brewers after that, coming off that 9-game win streak that ended yesterday in Sacramento. I believe Spencer Strider against Taijuan Walker tomorrow night. Interesting matchup with the pitchers. And the Phillies are gonna go right back at it, and we'll see how good they are. Now, there's a lot of positives to take from the 9-game winning streak, but there's, again, still some constant negatives about this baseball team that are never getting fixed. And once again, it's how much do you believe that the same thing is actually going to yield different results? But the Phillies will get back at it tomorrow, and we'll be here for you as we always are on the Fighting's Final. But with that being said, I've been running this little graphic thing, little exercise. We're doing the top 10 worst trades in Phillies history, and we are down to number 4. And these are per me. These are my top 10 worst trades in Phillies history. And tonight we're going to do number 4, as we're getting right back down to the nitty gritty, almost to the end of it. So let's remind the folks at home where we are, and what are the top 6, I guess. The Freddie Garcia trade was number 10. The Hunter Pence trade, bringing him here, was number 9. Number 8 was Ken Giles going to the Astros. Number 7 was Shane Victorino going to the Dodgers. 6 was the Cole Hamels trade. sending him to Texas. 5 was sending Schilling to Arizona. And that brings us to number 4. And we'll get to 4 right now. Michael says the Bills' last few seasons have been favored, other than the Chiefs, to be the Super Bowl. Josh Allen does not win big games. Hasn't been able to at this point. Or the Bills haven't been able to win big games there. Michael, was it Josh Allen or the Bills? Or a combination of both? I believe Strider's second start. Can't wait for the top 10 trades. All right, here we go, Joe. Number 4, my Matty B's top 10 worst Phillies trade of all time. It's an oldie but a goodie. One that kind of makes you scratch your head a little bit. It's back from the 1960s. It is the Ferguson Jenkins trade. The Phillies sent Fergie Jenkins to the Cubs for Adolfo Phillips, John Herrnstein, and we sent to the Cubs Ferguson Jenkins, Bob Bull, and Larry Jackson. Now, Ferguson Jenkins actually got up with the Phillies in the latter part of the 65 season, his rookie year. Pitched, I think, 7 starts or 11 starts, something like that. And then started off the 66 season, I think, with a couple starts with the Phillies before the Phillies gave up on the young pitcher. Now, we all know Ferguson Jenkins would go on and, have a Hall of Fame career. He was 284 and 226 lifetime, 3.34 earned run average, over 3,100 strikeouts for the Phillies, Cubs, Rangers, Red Sox, Rangers, and Cubs again. A 3-time NL All-Star, an NL Cy Young Award winner, a 2-time wins leader, the strikeout leader in 1969. His number with the Cubs is retired. He's also a member of the Cubs Hall of Fame and the Texas Rangers Hall of Fame. He was enshrined into Cooperstown in the class of 91 on his 3rd ballot of eligibility. And what do we get in return for that? And what was some of the return players that we got? Adolfo Phillips, John Herrnstein, and crap. Straight crap. We traded a potential or a perennial or future, whatever you want to say, Hall of Famer and Fergie Jenkins to the Cubs for garbage. And that is good for Matty B's number 4 worst trade in Phillies history. Ferguson Jenkins traded to the Cubs in April of 1966 for absolutely nothing. And we are now have arrived at the top 3. The top 3. So Ferguson Jenkins, what do you guys think? You guys remember that trade? I don't, obviously. I'm not that old. But when you look at a player like Ferguson Jenkins, who became a Hall of Famer, and we shipped his ass out of here for literally a bag of balls. It answers the questions why this team has lost over 10,000 games in the history of its franchise. It really does. But now we're getting down to the top 3. My 3 worst trades of all time. Maybe you can think of what they are. Maybe you can figure them out. I think they're good. Number 3 might shock you a little bit. I might be jumping the gun a little bit on number 3, but I feel very, 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 very confident in number 3. And then number 2 and number 1, they're pretty much slam dunks. But there you go. Let's move on now to the other night segment as we're driving right through this show. All right, of the night, I think we finished off last week doing Phillies prospects, so we're going to turn it back around to the NHL draft as we're getting closer. June 27th and 28th, by the way, out there in Los Angeles will be the NHL draft, and we will have you covered for first round coverage here on the It's a Wrap Sports Network. The Clear the Ice crew, mainly me, is going to turn it out, man, for the first round of the 25 NHL draft, and I will provide the commentary on it. I figure, you know what? I've spent all this time going over these players. I might as well be there when they find out their future. So we will be covering the first round and first round only of the 2025 NHL draft on June 27th at 8 p.m. here on the network. So mark that date and that time on your calendars. And I can't wait, because obviously the Flyers could be one of them. This is probably one of the more important drafts in Flyer history, this draft right here. But tonight's of the night player, Flyer or NHL draft prospect is Radim Mr. Tika. Mr. TK. He is a 6'6", 190-pound right-hand defenseman. He's a very good offensive defenseman. He shows good puck poise and confronts and comfort on the puck with a willingness to hold onto it and make a play. He's got a good hard point shot that he does a good job of keeping low and on target with his length and mobility. His defensive upside is high. He's still got a lot of development in front of him. And this really, I think, what grabs me about him, obviously, is 6'6" and 198 pounds. I like big defensemen. I like big forwards. I like the bigger players. I know it's not necessarily the sexy way to go anymore in hockey, is the big hulking kind of guys. But if you can get a guy with size and speed, you got something special. Now, I do believe with the development, he's got a lot of it, and he's probably more of a lower, let's be honest, probably a mid-second round prospect at this point. His stock has fallen a little bit throughout the year. He hasn't had the greatest of seasons. This season, he played kind of bounced around in Chechnya for a couple different teams, and then finished out the year with the Seattle Thunderbirds of the Western Hockey League. Played 43 games for them, 3 goals, 32 assists, 39 points. But he had an amazing plus 10 of plus minus. In the playoffs for the Thunderbirds, 6 games, no goals, 3 assists, 3 points for 4 penalty minutes and a -3. So that wasn't really that good. But he's enough for me to take a flyer on, and I say that tongue-in-cheek wise, with some of those second round, with maybe one of the second round picks the Flyers might have. I would prefer him a left-handed defenseman, but you can't have that all the time. But I like the size. I like the big, the big defenseman type thing. It kind of go back a little bit to the old days. So I would take a flyer on this guy, but by no means is he somebody that you look at that's going to turn your franchise around next year. I mean, he may never grade out to anything better than the seventh defenseman, and he may be a tweener or a fringe guy most of his career. But I think mid-second round, if he's sitting there, I think the Flyers should entertain it, because we definitely need help defensively. That blue line is not good right now, and we're going to need all the help, the current help we can get, and then the future help as well. So tonight's NHL draft prospect, Radim Mr. Tika. And that's, and there you go. I'm saying that name right. I got to work on those names, man. If Jalen lost as many times Josh lost in the AFC Championship game, 2 times Jalen would be vilified even worse than winning 2 championship games. Yeah. I mean, Jalen went into the postseason this year with an under 500 record. I mean, again, everyone wants to think Jalen Hurts is this winning dynamo. He had this season was really the best he ever had in the postseason. Hell, it's the best the Eagles have ever had in the postseason. It all goes hand in hand, man. When does Painter start for the Iron Pace? I believe tomorrow night. I want to say tomorrow. Tomorrow, Wednesday. There you go. There's our of the night. We did our trade. Man, we're getting right through this tonight. All right, let's finish it up with my favorite time of the night. My favorite segment of the night. Yeah, MattyB's card review. This is a segment of the show where we take one of my many sports cards and we just have some fun talking about it. We talk about potential financial value, nostalgia value, just, where I might have been in my life or in the world when I acquired this set card. You'll be amazed, and I've been amazed as we've been doing this segment, how many of the memories that I actually remember when I pulled this particular card. Tonight's card, I don't remember exactly when I pulled it, but I remember the time of my life, and I remember where I was, but I don't remember actually pulling this card. And this is like sort of one of those players that, as a player, was on your lips. You knew about him, but he wasn't really all that special. But this is also a player that went on to be a very special manager. throughout his career. And we're going to stay in that iconic 87 top set that we've been pretty much stuck on for the last week. And I think we're coming out of it. I think this card is the last one for probably a little while, but I have a lot of 87 tops. So we're going to be doing a lot of 87 cards. But tonight's card review is the 87 tops Bruce Bochy of the Padres. Yes, that Bruce Bochy, the current World Series guru winning manager of the Texas Rangers, Bruce Bochy. And this is his 87 tops. Interesting card here because as a player, he really, I mean, again, no, I knew of him as a player living in Philadelphia back in the 80s. We knew of him. He was okay. Finished with a 239 career batting average, 26 home runs, 93 RBIs, with a winning, his managerial record. This is updated, I think, as of yesterday's 2,196 and 2,211 for about a 496 winning percentage as a manager. Four-time World Series champion as a manager, and the NL Manager of the Year. So his player accolades, nothing, absolutely nothing. But he's been one of the greatest managers in the era of in this recent era. Of course, his time with the Giants, winning in 10, 12, and 14, and then that bled over to winning with the Rangers in 2023. Again, not a player that jumps out at you as, oh, Bruce Bochy, but the manager stuff does. And this card is interesting because I can find this card in multiple different price ranges. I saw a PSA 9 of this card, $30. I've seen raw cards of this card anywhere between $1 and $4. So it's all up and down the spectrum. A autographed card, this card autographed by him, $100. It's one of those cards that is truly, I think, being driven by what the man was as a manager, and you can't take that away from him. But this is his player card. Again, the iconic 87 tops with the wood paneling borders, and which I, of course, have a ton of, and those old school San Diego Padre colors and logo. So there you have it. Tonight's card of the night, or tonight's card review, is Bruce Bochy. And here's my Bruce Bochy. I have actually about 8 of these. Very common card. Pulled them a lot in a lot of packs. This card is in pretty good shape. This is probably a PSA 9. I would heavily think this is a PSA 9. I could be sitting on a $30 Bruce Bochy card. But anytime you can pull a manager's card from that era, Bochy, Leland, Lasorda, Sparky Anderson, Rose. I mean, that 87 set has some great manager cards and some great managers from yesteryear. And this is a player card. This is not even a manager's card, but I have an Aaron Boone signed player's card. The autograph carries it a lot, but the weight of that card is not necessarily on the player's playing career, but is on his managerial career. And Bruce Bochy is the epitome of that you're paying for this as a manager, not as a player. But an interesting spectrum of price range on this card, all over the place, between $2 and $100. So there you go, the Bruce Bochy 87 tops from that very iconic set. Joe Howe said he met him when he was leaving Citizen Bank Park like 4 years ago. He was very humble. Oh, see, there you go, Joe. Joe, you meet all these people, man. You got to start bringing baseball cards to these things and get some signatures, dude. I'm just telling you, man, you're missing out. Good show, and it's all good that everyone has their own opinions. Things would be boring if everyone liked the color blue. I 100% agree, Michael Papernick. The thing is, and I'll wrap this up, and thank you once again, Michael, for taking the time out tonight and stopping by. The thing is this, and Michael kind of hit it on the head. I'm not going to sit here and be the tyrant that others are when it comes to my opinions. I respect everyone's opinion, and you're entitled to it. And just because I debate back and forth doesn't mean I'm mad at you or anything like that. No, I don't see things the way you see them, and you guys don't see them a lot of ways that I see them. And that's what makes this country really, really, really great. And we really, as a country, got to start worrying about things when we can't do this anymore. When we can't sit back and forth and debate and argue back and forth. When we can't do that anymore, that's when we got to start worrying about things. If you think this country's messed up now, which I'm not saying it ain't, but when the day comes that we can't sit here and have these healthy conversations back and forth and, throw each other under the bus and make fun of each other, because when we can't do that, that's when we really have problems. when we can't. But I agree with Michael. There's nothing personal about any of this stuff. I will never see Jalen Hurts as anything more than a game manager, and you're never going to convince me of the fact that Jalen Hurts' contributions to the Eagles were the epitome of putting them over the top. And I maintain that if you didn't have his contributions last year, this team still wins the Super Bowl. But he's a competent quarterback, and I don't hate him. So we'll continue this. I'm sure this ain't the last time I'm going to have to do this. But this is going to wrap me up tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining in. Remember, tomorrow night we'll be back with the Fighting's Final. I had the Fighting's Final tomorrow night. Phillies, Braves. And then throughout the rest of the week, I'll be back on Wednesday night with the PM with the final word. And we are going to open up the phone lines on this show. We are going to do an It's a Wrap Sports Network first. Live callers on the final word. So God be with me. But that's okay. I have the dump button, so it doesn't really matter. But no, I'm looking forward to that. Don't forget the Attacking Third every Thursday at 9, the PNM and the AM program every Sunday morning at 9, and then starting this football season, the Birds Blast with Kyle Quinn returns to the It's a Wrap Sports Network. All the wonderful things, and we're going to be adding more shows this fall as well. Mike Laro is going to be doing 2 shows. He's going to be doing a Penn State post-game show, and he's also going to do his own little sports thing. We're going to be bringing back the Birds Flyby, which is our post-game Eagles show. That's going to come back, and then and maybe a couple more surprises that we're working on. Trying to find some new talent out there, man. I need to find the next MattyB. So if you know him, let me know who he is. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. All right, before I do say goodbye, there is one last thing I do want to address. So today is Memorial Day, and I know there's a thing about Happy Memorial Day. You can't say that. But, this day has always been not a hard day for me, but it hits a different way for me. So, and I don't really ever do this, and I don't really let people in to me personally, but it's been part of my problem in my life. But I spent 30 years in the Army, and I spent multiple tours of combat duty. 90 months total I spent in combat throughout my time in military. 5 tours in Afghanistan and 1 tour in Iraq. I've seen some things that I didn't need to see. I've done things that I certainly didn't need to do. And I've lost friends. I've lost close friends in battle. I've watched them die at times. And this day, obviously, is the day to step back and to thank them for the sacrifices that they made, because we all went willing. Nobody was forced to go. Nobody was, nobody had a gun held to their head and said, "You got to go do this. You got to go fight." No, these were patriots. These were people that put the country above themselves, and they paid the ultimate sacrifice. And I know families around this country, this day hits differently. I've had the very hard task of telling parents that their son or daughter wasn't coming home, that I failed them as a leader and I couldn't bring them home alive. And I've had, and I'm not alone. I know there's people out there that have gone through the survivor's guilt about, why me, not them, or why them, not me. And I'm definitely not, I'm part of that group. At times, why am I so lucky? And, if I was standing 5 feet to the left, I wouldn't be here. But I wasn't, but so-and-so was. So I have a lot of respect for this day, and I have a lot of reverence for this day. And I want to thank and just say to everybody out there that has served. And I know this is not necessarily for those this is not for veterans, but this is for those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And that ultimate sacrifice is everything. And I want to thank them. I want to thank the ones that I served with that gave the ultimate sacrifice. I want to thank the ones that came before me, and then, of course, the ones that will come after me. The answer to your nation's call, it's not for everybody, but for the select few that we do it, it's hard to explain it because it's only we understand it. But on this Memorial Day, I want to thank and I want to wish those families a peaceful day. And I want to send this out with some taps. So happy Memorial Day, everybody, and we'll talk again on Wednesday.